Don't she need to be tired?
Yeah, alright, so we got Jameka.
I'm sorry.
And here's our audience. And we'll get you going.
The piece I am reciting today is titled A More Perfect Union by former President Barack Hussein Obama and the Philadelphia Convention on March 18, 2008. I got this piece from American Rhetoric, and I was intrigued to recite this because it is meaningful to me since President Obama recently left office, and this is one of his very first speeches during his campaign. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. 221 years ago, in a hall that still stands across the street, a group of men gathered and with these simple words launched America's improbable experiment in democracy. Farmers and scholars, statesmen and patriots who have traveled across the ocean to escape tyranny and persecution finally made their Declaration of Independence at a Philadelphia Convention that lasted through the spring of 1787. The document they produced was eventually signed, but ultimately unfinished. It was stained by this nation's original sin of slavery, a question that divided the colonies and brought the convention to a stalemate until the founders chose to allow the slave trade to continue for at least 20 more years, and to leave any final resolution to future generations. Of course, the answer to the slavery question was already embedded within our Constitution, a Constitution that had at its very core the ideal of equal citizenship under the law, a Constitution that promised liberty and justice and a union that can be and should be perfected over time. And yet, on a parchment, would not be enough to deliver slaves from bondage, or provide men and women of every color and creed their full rights and obligations as citizens of the United States. What would be needed were Americans in successive generations who were willing to do their part. Through protest and struggle, on the streets and in the courts, through civil war and civil disobedience, and always at great risk to narrow the gap between the promise of our ideals and the reality of their time. This was one of the tasks we set forth at the beginning of this presidential campaign, to continue the long march of those who came before us, a march for a more just, more equal, more free, more caring, and a more prosperous America.